Proceed. Hello? Okay, I don't know. I'm gonna say it again because I don't know if anybody heard us. I think our mics were disabled. But welcome to our live. So we already kicked off the engines, but basically we're gonna do a running session. We've got our Chesapeake and Ohio from Broadway Limited running around the layout. It's gonna be going back into the station module in a second. Then we've also got our Blue Goose from Broadway Limited running around the layout. Both engines got a new set of passenger cars we were able to get from eBay to match them, which is really cool. We found some Blue Goose River Rossi passenger cars to match the Blue Goose, and we found some Chesapeake and Ohio cars to go with the Chesapeake and Ohio engine. So you'll see the Blue Goose pulling up now on the far track. And then in a second you will see the Chesapeake and Ohio pulling in. So I don't know if there is a brand. I think these cars are from a kit, but they are, I believe they're aluminum. They're very heavy cars, but definitely very old school in style.
I mean, I absolutely love them. I was very close, and I was in a little bit of a bidding war for these Atlas Chesapeake and Ohio passenger cars. The only concern that I had, and I know Walthers has a similar set, that they're very plasticky and almost have a gray metallic finish with very plasticky blue and yellow, which kind of goes with that Chessie logo. But the engine itself, it's so beautiful and streamlined. It has that aluminum corrugated look that I almost felt like the passenger cars didn't do any kind of justice. So I think this find is pretty cool. It has that aluminum corrugated feel to it, and it even has the decals that are a little bit weathered to give it that old aluminum look that really goes with that streamlined engine passenger car 1940s 50s vibe.
Yeah, the aluminum does look nice, and I think
Yeah.
when you polish them up, they're gonna look really shiny, like stainless steel.
What's really cool is I don't know how old this kit is. I don't know when it was made, but if you look very closely to the interior, you see old light bulbs. So at one point these must have been lit.
Yeah,
So it'd be cool to kind of convert them and add like a little LED strip.
yeah. I think they have pickups. I think the bulbs are just shot. I mean, who knows when these are from?
Yeah.
When these train cars are from? So.
I mean, I have not seen a light bulb inside a passenger car ever.
So there you saw the Blue Goose coming around what I call our warehouse area of the layout. So it's kind of like a forest perspective, separated view where trains kind of come around the bend from kind of like a forest setting, and then we also have our freight warehouse there for us to have a place to bring freight if we're doing like running sessions. We'll switch back over to the station view. And you can see the Blue Goose pulling into the station now, and then you'll see the Chesapeake and Ohio coming along from the back track.
Now I'm genuinely curious. Was River Rossi the only line that had River Rossi passenger coaches? Sorry, Blue Goose passenger cars.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't. That's all I've seen. Unless you see. Oh, it started working. I think it was vlog. Unless you see like brass ones, I feel like so far they are. The one thing I don't understand. I'm not trying to belittle what it takes to manufacture things. I don't quite get when you have these engines that come out from a manufacturer that have a very specific passenger car set, like the Blue Goose, for example.
Yeah,
I don't understand, even if it's not released at the same time, I don't understand why there doesn't seem to be any like notification or like, basically they don't release the passenger set. That's one thing you see with Lionel. Like
yeah.
Lionel releases an engine and there typically is a passenger car set, or you get the set and there's extension sets and so on. And in HO, I don't know what it is. I feel like a lot of times, unless you buy a pre-made set that's been around for a while, like Bachmann has a daylight set that
Yeah.
comes with daylight cars, but otherwise, like nobody's made daylight cars in forever.
Yeah.
So I don't really get how you're releasing engines and you don't give anybody any new product for the passenger cars.
Now I'll be honest, I'm super excited for the release of the GS4, the Daylight. Uh, but yeah, Broadway Limited, it's such a very well made, luxurious line of trains. I'm surprised that they haven't released or haven't announced any release for Daylight passenger cars to go with the brand new engine.
Yeah.
Um, but that was my qualm as well. I was genuinely trying to prepare for the arrival of the GS4 by finding passenger cars, but the prices are insane on eBay. Their starting bids are about $280 for a passenger car that came out how many years ago?
Yeah. No, I mean eBay's gotten really bad. I think since the pandemic and so on, eBay has gotten very, very bad. Yeah,
But
eBay prices in general are just out of this world. And I'm not
yeah,
saying these things aren't valuable or there's some of them aren't collectible, but like, you got those blue goose patch cards at a great price compared to what people are selling some sets for.
but I will say that certain brands, I don't see how you justify the pricing. Like Walters, for example, I don't understand why I'm paying 70, 80 plus dollars for a passenger car that doesn't even have any type of lit interior or anything super special. But then I compare it to a line like Rapido, and if you look at those manuals, how many pieces are actually inside that passenger car to make it so detailed?
Yeah.
They're actually releasing a Southern Pacific Daylight dome car.
Oh wow.
Unfortunately, I pre-ordered it without realizing that the release date is somewhere in 2024. So
Oh yeah,
now,
it looks really nice. I'm also wondering why they're just doing a Civic car, but whatever. I'm not gonna
yeah,
complain. Rapido has great passenger cars and it looks really nice. All right, so we're gonna add another engine to the mix here, and this is a River Rossi reverse cab, and it's gonna be pulling some freight on the layout. This is a model I actually refurbished and fixed up at the very beginning of the pandemic, and it was a while before I was able to get back to my layout and actually run it. So it was a fun little project, but it was kind of just locked up, a lot of corrosion and stuff. Pretty easy to clean up, but we got it working. So I'll just send this guy around the layout. Oh, doesn't like that spot. Do not have a keep a eye on this one yet. It's got a really big, like a large wheelbase, so it usually does pretty good. But sometimes when it first starts going, it has a little trouble because the flanges are quite big and it kind of bounces off. But it's a good puller. I do have to replace the traction tires. One thing we've been using to replace the traction tires on all our older trains, especially the Verassi, is bullfrog snot, which works great. So I've done 4 trains so far with it, and I've got this one, another little Riverossi 060 engine. I need to put some bullfrog snot on and get it fixed up. But we'll switch to the warehouse view so you can see it coming around there. It's a really nice little engine. I don't know if the tender really matched it didn't come with a tender. I had to kind of find one that just worked. So it's just a River Rossi tender. It says Baltimore and Ohio. I don't know if Baltimore and Ohio had reverse cabs, but it was compatible with it electrically. So I just got it and hope for the best.
so what was the point of having the cab reverse?
So the explanation I have heard is that I think it was Union Pacific. They had a lot of long tunnels, and people would complain, like drivers and maybe even potentially passengers, but I think it was more for freight, would complain about when they went through the long tunnels, people would like suffocate. Like you'd be having black smoke
Yeah,
for a very long tunnel with no fresh air, and there was no fans or anything in the tunnels back then. Um, so the reverse cab allowed it so that basically the engine was switched around. Now I think you could only do this with oil, which is what this was an oil-fired engine, because otherwise you'd have to have a fireman shoveling coal in, so it wouldn't
hmm.
work. But they basically just reverted everything. They used hoses to get the oil up to the boiler, the
Oh, cool.
firebox, and what it did is it just put the smokestack behind the operators. So therefore they weren't suffocating when they
Yeah.
went through tunnels. It's just a long train. So we're going to see it pulling into the station now. Not that freight trains typically do that, but that's where our loop goes, so that's where it will pull in. So yeah, I love this engine. Again, needs a little bit of work on those wheels, but it still pulls quite a bit. So it's a really a good engine. I fixed up and really like running. And then we've got our Blue Goose again coming along the backside there. Yeah, it does not like that switch. That one's not electrified yet, so.
You did a good job. It's running pretty smoothly.
It runs really well. Yeah, it just again my biggest problem with some of the older, not all the Rossi engines have this issue, but the wheel flanges. Just like Lima, ZUF, like love the trains, but unfortunately we have. It's not so much we have Code 83 in most places. I think it's the Pico Code 83 specifically. Like there, you'll hear it clack on, and that's because of the way they have the fake railroad spikes are bigger, I think, on the Pico track than the Wathers. So the Wathers 8 Code 83, you don't hear it clacking, but on the Pico you do.
But it's nice how you can do conversions. In one of the other videos, you have the GUF running around a lot more smoothly around the track.
Yeah, that one I didn't do any wheels yet, but it just runs okay. The UF has like very conical wheel flanges, so they kind of stay away from the edge, so it actually in a weird way works. It's almost ran over the Blue Goose there.
Oh no.
Do you want to open that switch up and we'll get the Chesapeake running again?
Yes.
So yeah, we're slowly building up some more scenery over in this area. I did some track work to fix it. In the future, we want to kind of have a camera focused on our port module. We're very proud of it. It was a Walters competition module, and we did fairly well. But we have to make sure we have a lot of things to do in the port in order to entertain people, so we're not showing it right now. But that track basically leads into the port module. That Chesapeake and Ohio throws out a lot of smoke.
Yeah. But it is so powerful because those coaches are heavy.
I mean, the Broadway Limited engines do fairly well. Oh, I think the wheel came undone. As we're saying how good they do. It's just the front trucks. They keep popping off on that one. They do fairly well because a lot of the ones we have at least are die cast. And they've got traction tires. They still have great pickup. I do not like traction tires. I understand the necessity for them. But that means they have a lot of pulling strength. So dealing with a little bit of a derailment here. Just give us 1 second. Back one's on. Cool. All right. All right. Sorry about that, folks. It happens. So yeah, they have quite a bit of pulling power. Even the smaller engines, they're so heavy, and with the set of traction tires, they can just pull a lot. So, and these cars that thing is pulling are very heavy. Like I said, they're aluminum. They're pulling 5 of them. They're very heavy cars. They're free rolling, which is good, but they are heavy.
They're so unique. That's kind of an obsessed with.
Yeah, they're really nice. They match it very well. So, we have some. Aside from polishing them, we probably need to spruce up the decals a little bit. And there's a plastic end cap that has an oxidation we have to try to clean off. But other than that, they're in pretty good shape.
So speaking of keeping trains in shape, I heard a rumor that you got to go on a diesel engine ride.
Yeah, I am a bad rail fan and do not know the model of the engine or anything like that. It was an Alco switcher. Really cool. Upstate New York, Saratoga and Corinth Railroad does like little excursion rides. You can pay $200 and ride in the cab with the engineer. You don't get to drive the train or anything, but it's a ton of fun in any sense. And it's a great experience. So my family rode the train while I was in the cab ride. And it was really nice. It was about an hour and a half, so nothing too long. Nice little excursion railway, and it's kind of in the Adirondacks, a little bit north of Saratoga, probably about 45 minutes north of Albany in upstate New York.
What's so cool, and I believe they do the same thing in Lancaster, but You get to choose whether you want to ride coach, first class, which I believe is in a diner car, or you can rent out an old Pullman end car. But what the kicker is they also have a flatbed car with picnic tables, so you get a nice outdoor view of the woods and the Adirondacks.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I think we lost some cars.
Man, this ran so well when I was testing it earlier. Those are very old knuckle couplers though, so or not knuckle couplers. Yeah, knuckle couplers.
Oh,
All right. Oh, we're catching up on the Bluetooth.
let's do that.
Yeah, I've got to keep the reverse cab going fast because it does not like to go slow. We'll slow it down a little bit though and see if it keeps it alive. So we'll let the reverse cab come through here and into the station, and then we're going to switch it out for another freight engine, and we'll keep our two passenger trains running. Really do love watching all of our trains come around that corner there. It's just a really nice perspective. Somebody. Oh, I guess everything's okay. I thought somebody shorted out. One thing about those cars is they're all metal and they do have pickups for the lights, even though they're not working. So when they derail, the passenger cars short the track.
Oh no.
That's usually something we have to worry about with engines, but unfortunately, it's just a side effect of having metal cars and pickups on the wheels.
So what are those rubber things in between the passenger cars?
So I've just been calling them diaphragms, or they're basically the gangways. So that's how you would walk between cars. Now these cars are spaced in a non-prototypical way, but it's cool. They get come with diaphragms. I tried as much as I could. Unfortunately, though the cars themselves can handle our 22-inch radius curves, the diaphragms, when they went around a little bit of an S bend we have, the diaphragms put too much strain on the cars and they would actually flip off the track. I tried everything I could to get it to work, including bending the tabs down so they could just slide past each other. Unfortunately, when I did that, they would end up popping off each other and then catching. So what I had to do is take off one diaphragm per car. So we still have that diaphragm. Look, it's just not connected like it would be. So we have to figure out a way to do that. Either buy newer diaphragms that have more flexibility.
Yeah.
Because those are kind of heavy rubber, those diaphragms. They're not light rubber, so they just put too much strain on those cars.
I almost like the diaphragms that Broadway Limited has on the Southern Pacific Daylights.
Yeah, that's cool. But those aren't meant to look like diaphragms.
Oh.
Do you mind pulling that off? Just so we can get that track free, like just set it on off the layout. And then I'm gonna start building our next freight train here. As soon as the Chesapeake and Ohio rolls by. Right. So I want to just keep an eye on that while I build this one.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to. I'm gonna switch over to the station view, and then if you could just pause the blue boost where it is. Actually, no, let the blue boost keep going. We'll have it go on the center track. And then once it passes, I'll build the freight train. Yeah, so anybody just joining the live, welcome. We're just doing a little train session, and we're showing off two parts of our layout, our warehouse area and our main station area. We're going to have our blue boost coming into view in our station module in a second. And I'm working on building another freight train to have around the layout. So as soon as the blue boost passes, I'm going to begin working on that. Do you want to talk a little bit about your struggles with finding passenger cars on eBay at a reasonable price?
Yes, why not? I have plenty to say about that. So, folks, one of the reasons I'm super excited to have these Blue Goose passenger cars, since we have gotten the Broadway Limited Blue Goose, I've been desperately searching for passenger cars. But again, there were points where I was paying, where people were trying to offer them for $80 plus, with no real interiors, no lighting, and I thought I got a great deal with this one set of six Santa Fe Blue Goose passenger cars, and the eBay seller took over a week to ship. And I politely asked if it was en route, and he canceled it on me and tried to resell it for over $100 more, and have the nerve to offer me what I originally purchased at a significantly higher price. So I was infuriated.
Yeah, that can be tough. I mean, I know that we've come to this expectation with Amazon that like, oh, things got to ship so fast. I don't really expect them to do anything like that, but I do expect them to ship it in like 2 to 3 days. That's always been my rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Now, some of them have disclosures that they might take them a week to ship, and that's something totally different. But unfortunately, this guy took literally over a week, which I would say is just beyond what it
And
should
then
ever be.
canceled on me. That was the frustrating part. I wanted it. You waited for me to ask about it and then cancel.
Yeah.
But I digress. At the end of the day, I was able to get three passenger cars separately, three different sellers. Amazing. And that's what we have now. Chesapeake and Ohio, like I said, there was this whole
Top off with smoke.
desire to look for corrugated cars. I know when I initially started my search, there was a old River Rossi, sorry, IHC set that I kept my eyes on. Ran a little bit more expensively. Had the yellow Chesapeake and Ohio colors with the corrugated metal look. Other than that, all I've really been able to see were those Atlas and Walthers plasticky blue and yellow with a silver gray paint scheme.
Mm.
But I'm really happy with our find. Ultimately, I think we made the right decisions and got the right sets of passenger cars.
Yeah, they look beautiful. Oh gosh, anyways, very help. Alright, so we just restocked up on our steam there. Alright, so before we get moving on the steam engines, they can cause a lot of noise, we're going to introduce our next freight engine here. It's going to be coming into view on the frontmost track here. So this is our Rapido, New York Central E8 in the fantasy paint scheme called Century Green. This is our first Rapido engine. Absolutely love it. It runs phenomenally. They release a lot of E8 series. They have some original Amtrak paint schemes and so on. Great, great engine. But we really like it here because we like to model the Northeast, so Pennsylvania Road and New York Central. And just love this engine. So we've got it pulling some freight cars, a Canadian National car, some PRR cars, and some more New York Central cars in that uh, not I shouldn't call it a fantasy scheme, but I mean it wasn't really. But they did pay an engine for it, but it was just to test it. This engine never ran with that color, so it's not quite fantasy, but it wasn't running with that number on a regular
It's
basis.
unfortunate. What did they call it? Century Green?
Yeah, New York Central had a lot of nice cars. I think trying to
Yeah.
be futuristic with whatever technology they had at the time. Now we've got our Chesapeake and Ohio pulling out of the station with those cars we found that we were talking about earlier. That thing really blows out a lot of smoke.
Yeah.
This one I noticed sometimes it looks like it's clogged easily. I don't know why.
I'm glad it smells like hot chocolate.
Yeah. Alright, you should be good if you want to have that guy go out. So we'll get that New York Central E8 coming around through the station, and then we'll switch over to our warehouse module so you guys can see them coming around. I keep saying the bend, but I have no other way to describe it other than that. So the repeater does have sound. I'm not going to turn it on because it's a little bit loud right now with the two Broadway Limited engines. But it does have sound. Obviously, it's DCC fitted, so it's a really nice model. We actually have a review on this on our YouTube page. Feel free to go check that out. It's just NYC Derailed, just like our handle on Instagram. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you already know where to go. But we do have a review of this, and it's a great engine. Highly recommend it. So here we go. It's coming through the station here, and you'll see the passenger, or sorry, freight cars it's pulling. It's a very big, powerful diesel, though. Seriously,
Yeah.
it just that thing pulls so well. It does not have traction tires.
Do you know if the color scheme had a B unit?
I've seen some conflicting things. I've seen things where they say that there was a B unit. I don't know if it was ABA, or sorry, I don't know if it was AA or ABA. But I don't think it ever really ran, so I don't think you find them very often. I have to look it up because I remember looking it up when we first got the engine. There was just conflicting information. I wasn't sure what was correct. There we see those beautiful Chesapeake and Ohio passenger cars shining coming around the bend there. And then right behind it, we're going to have that New York Central E8. We also have it pulling the first tank car there is a Broadway Limited tank car, and that is the most detailed tank car I have ever seen. I absolutely love that. Every time I handle it, I am afraid I'm going to break one of the handles that are going all up and down the side of it.
I love looking at detailed things. I'm just terrified of handling them. They're so delicate.
Same. It's nice to have some trains you can kind of rough around with and not worry about it. Obviously, they're beautiful, but when you have trains you're afraid to touch, it's not so fun to run them. If anybody has any questions for us, feel free to ask if you are watching live. One thing we haven't really talked about in general is our layout's a work in progress. We started with two modules that we did as part of the Waters 2021 and then Waters 2022 National Model Railroad Build-Off. Ton of fun. Our port module, which we're not showing today, was our first competition. We placed third. And then we did what we call our station module, and that's because it's stations everywhere. We have an old station, we have a new station, we have two platforms, and then we have a subway station that runs along the front edge of it underneath the other station. Unfortunately, we didn't place with that, but we love it. So once we built that one, we decided to start working on the layout in our house. And it's basically, I don't know if there's an actual technical term for this, but it's basically abstract dog bone style layout, which means that you have two loops. So at each end, you have a big loop so the trains can run continuously, but it's stretched out in a way where you feel like you kind of have a little bit of a main line and you're traveling a pretty good distance. So, and then we have our port module jutting out kind of from one of the dog bone ends to give a little bit different dimension. So we're hoping to show off more. We're still working a lot. There's a lot of bare plywood. That's why we kind of just focus on our station module and port module. But definitely, as we do a little bit more, we want to show off other parts of it.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to be as detailed as possible. I don't think what I think no one else knows is this started off with a Bachmann train that just ran around on the floor, on a wooden floor. Ultimately became a shelf layout, which later turned into a Murphy bed. How long was that?
Oh yeah. So in my apartment, I made like a Murphy bed style 8x4 layout that like folded up under the wall. Because my room wasn't huge, there was enough room for it to be down, but it's not something I wanted to walk around all the time. It did fall a few times though. So, but yeah, that was when we first started really testing our techniques with modeling. We collected a good number of trains at that time, but we didn't, we were just starting to model on the layout. So,
but it was a great opportunity to play around with electronics. There was this one of my personal favorite buildings is this old movie theater building set that you were able to put LEDs and actually make the marquee stand out in that old movie theater.
Oh yeah,
style.
I can't wait to start setting our buildings up again. We've done quite a bit with lighting and so on. So, but unfortunately, we just don't have enough a place to put them yet.
That is actually one building I'm super excited to show off.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna let our trains come into the station, and then we're gonna work on wrapping up the live. Just wait for our E8 to start coming around the corner there.
I think we turned the
Oh, I
camera.
did.
Yeah, I was like, why are we looking at a theater?
So there's the E8 coming around there. Bumped into the camera. And we'll switch over to this station model so you can see the final roll-in of the trains. There's our Blue Goose pulling to a stop. Beautiful engine. And then we've got our E8 passing in front with its freight trains. And if we're going to just stop it there on the center track. Again, that's an Rapido New York Central E8. We'll do a nice stop there. Perfect. Well, thank you for anybody who joined our live on Instagram or YouTube. Feel free to share our page or follow us if you do not already. On YouTube, we do post some review videos, and we're definitely doing more lives in the future and review videos, hopefully. So if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on YouTube, NYC Derailed. Subscribe, and then also click the notification bell so you get notifications when we do post a video or go live in the future. And if you've not already, subscribe to us on Instagram. We post a lot of shorts and things like that of our trains running throughout the week just to have some content between our lives and bigger videos. So again, thank you for anybody who watched live, and thank you for anybody who watches the video as a recording. Have a good night.